avoid, at this stage, you want to absolutely avoid going deep. And this is really hard because I find myself all the time trying to, all right, the idea here is to go broad. Don't go deep. Oh, that's a really cool subject area. Let's go do their full-blown mission statement. Avoid it.
Welcome to Digital Transformation Architect, architecting the future of digital transformation. I'm Dr. Darren, and this podcast is for leaders navigating the real-world complexity of modern change. Each week, we cut through the hype to explore how strategy, architecture, technology, and people come together across artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, data, edge, and modern infrastructure. This isn't about chasing tools. It's about designing systems that endure. Let's get started.
In this lecture, I'm going to talk about finding and observing the enterprise landscape as the first two steps in the Forge methodology. Normally, I would break this into multiple lectures, and you will get those when we go over the domains specifically in next month's set of lectures, where we go over strategic, organizational, process, physical, and digital domains. We will see how the Forge steps apply to each one of those domains. But today we're going to talk about the high-level finding and observing, that FO part of Forge. So first stage is called the find stage. This stage is really important, especially when you get started, that you are trying to find as broad as you can the key elements of the enterprise. And a lot of times the finding techniques that you use have to do a lot about active listening, asking questions and getting them to talk about their organization. So we have a set of questions that you can ask per domain, or you can ask in general. The idea here is to get them to talk and to capture everything you can while they're talking. And when you're capturing those things, do your best to identify which areas inside the ODXA domains they're talking about and put a pin in it. Literally, drop a little pin in the map and say, this is what we talked about. Even if you have Gen AI where you can capture the voice to text, just capture and drop it into those areas that you see where you're finding out information. And avoid, at this stage, you want to absolutely avoid going deep. And this is really hard because I find myself all the time trying to, all right, the idea here is to go broad. Don't go deep. Oh, that's a really cool subject area. Let's go do their full-blown mission statement. Avoid it. Don't do that at this stage. The first time through, it's, do they have a mission statement? Yes. What is it? Oh, it's there. Don't criticize it. Drop it into that domain. Map it. I got. Do they have technology roadmaps in the strategic domain? They do. All right, great. Drop it in there. So this first one is just finding out everything that you can about their organization. Gather existing documentation, inventories, list whatever they're willing to give to you and whatever you have access to. The idea is to catalog it and to catalog it quickly. You don't need to go way down deep into the different sub-layers of ODXA. Start at the first layer, right? In each domain, there's one layer down. Find out those things first, if they have them. If they don't, that's fine, right? That's okay to do. Also, make sure you have the right people in the room. You want to talk to all the key stakeholders, not just executives. You do need executives, by the way, not just a director of IT. That's a very small part of the whole enterprise. So you want to make sure that you go broad, but you don't want to fill the room with 30 or 40 people. Keep it to about 8 to 10 people, broad spectrum, ask questions, get them to talk, right? This may mean a couple interviews that you have, but and maybe different groups that you're talking to. But the idea here is to find and to go as broad as you can, because we're going to talk about going deep later on. When we come back and go through the find cycle again, we're not going to map out the whole enterprise. This is a danger that a lot of enterprise architects have. They feel like in order to understand everything, I have to map everything. And now you can get stuck in analysis paralysis. So we don't want to go there. But we do want to map as broad as we can and then choose selectively where we go deep later on, right? Look for hidden assets inside the company. A lot of times, especially when you're dealing with government, you can find out a lot of information about, like in the organizational domain. You can check out their website for what are their values, their goals, their mission statements. Those things you can easily grab and drop the pins in. That's very, very simple into the individual domains. But what they advertise on their website, or maybe even what an executive says, these are our core values, later on when we get into reconcile, which is later on, you're now going to try and reconcile what they say and what reality is what you have to reconcile against. But we'll talk about that in next week's lecture. So the idea, though, is find any hidden assets and stakeholders that they may have. Look beyond the formal records, dive in a little bit, but remember, stay broad. You can always come back later. The idea here is capture and catalog in this first one. Okay. Also, you're going to see things like shadow IT, shadow finance. We've had that before in different organizations. And just probe and ask questions, identify, but don't go too deep. Again, I can't say that enough on this first time through. Once you've done your find, the next step is observing. So the key here is that you are observing interdependencies between the elements you've already identified in your find stage. So, for example, I have a mission statement. Under that mission statement, I may have a whole bunch of objectives. Under that objectives, I may have capabilities or value streams, or I may have value streams directly from mission statements. The idea here is if you can draw a connection or some kind of a relationship between them, then draw that relationship between those elements in those different layers. That's what we want to do in the observe stage. See which processes are using which tools in the digital domain. See which organizations, roles and responsibilities in the organizational domain are using which processes in the process domain. Find out where their software is running. Is it running in the cloud? Is it running on-prem? Is it running on their laptops? Whatever the case may be. Now, don't get too detailed. Again, with observe, you may uncover new elements, and that's fine, but try and set that first layer first, right? And there is going to be a tendency to want to dive in. If you do dive in a little bit, capture that, but don't map it yet. But capture that and drop it into that area, either the voice to text or notes or whatever you have. Drop it into that category that you have wherever you've mapped it. That will come in handy later when we go and do an iteration on this and when we start asking more and more questions. But the idea here is to go broad, identify those relationships between the different elements that you've mapped. Areas where you can start looking for like behavioral data, right? How are people behaving? And gather logs, statistics, change requests, incident tickets, but don't just grab all of them. Use some analytics here to analyze big patterns that you're seeing between these relationships and the different elements. Again, avoid getting into the details, but stay at the higher level and identify those relationships between the different elements that you found. Try and keep it at the highest level that you possibly can. That is still meaningful. You can look for application usage. Data flow diagrams are beautiful in this place, and they reside in the digital domain as well as in the process domain. There are going to be some relationships that go on there. But the key here is you're analyzing usage patterns. You're not getting into, oh, they always use Microsoft Excel to do a specific accounting report, right? You don't want to get into the specifics, stay at the high level. Right? And map those data flows between systems, including application data, technology, whatever the case may be. Through doing this, you're also going to identify some bottlenecks right away. And you'll see it start to emerge. You'll start seeing some pain points that the organization has, and they'll start rearing their ugly heads. Resist the temptation to fix things. You're an engineer probably, and you want to fix things. So don't fix things yet. Identify where the gaps are. right? Note, oh, this appears to be a gap. You may find out later as we dig deeper that it isn't really a gap, or that the gap is bigger than you expected. So those are the sorts of things you want to do during observe. Now, once we get through observe, we go into reconcile. But before we go into reconcile, now is an opportunity to identify their pain points and their gaps that they have. And specifically, this is a time that I like to say to the customer or the organization, what is your biggest value stream that you want to optimize? What is your new capability that you want to develop? What is your mission solutions that you need to perform the mission capabilities that you have on the books? If this is in government, there are so many great capabilities and missions that they have. Start now, before you go any deeper, start looking at which ones are most valuable to them. And you can find that out by spending some time in the strategic domain and getting a little bit on this next iteration through on the find. Now you're going to start finding a little bit more. Even before we go on to reconcile, you want to find out a little bit deeper in some of those areas that are most important to them. So this is your opportunity to go a little bit deep, maybe one more layer deep, but not too deep, because we still have reconciliation to do, which is very important. And then we have grounding and enhance. So we'll get to those in our next lectures. So the key here, if I can't emphasize it enough, is ask leading questions in the find step. Get them to open up, get them to express things, get them to give you things. Use some great tools out there. Generative AI has really unlocked enterprise architecture and made it much easier for us to capture and to catalog things more effectively. So use the tools that are out there to help you go through all of the elements that you're looking at. But don't go too deep. That's the third thing on find. Go broad as you possibly can, which you should go and you'll identify big gaping holes in their enterprise, right? Put a pin in those, right? Save those for later. Don't delve into them yet. Go through your observe, where you're observing relationships between things. There may be some hidden elements in there that you didn't know about or no one kind of knew about. They're kind of sitting in the tacit knowledge of the organization. And then go back to your find again. Go back and go one more layer down, do your observe again, and then that's it. Don't go any deeper than that. No more than 2 layers deep this first time through, and then we'll move on to reconcile. You will come back to the find and observe over and over again as you go through, as you're helping them refine what they're going to focus on. You don't need to map the whole organization. This is a problem that we've seen in enterprise architecture in the past. We have whole teams that want to map every single detail out. That is really cool, but as we all know, these enterprises, these organizations are living organisms and they change. And by the time you've mapped everything out, something has changed. And now you've got change management on your big, huge data model. With this, we'll go broad first. We'll monitor the changes, and then we'll go deep as we need to in the areas that they want to. So check out the next lectures that we have. We're going to cover reconciliation and grounding, which is really important, especially the grounding part. I can't wait to talk to you guys about grounding. A lot of people with digital transformation feel like I just need to add new technology. If you notice, we're not adding any new technology until enhance. And when I say technology, I don't just mean software or hardware. I need new processes is a new kind of technology, new organizational structures, new strategy methodologies and techniques can be considered a type of technology. So we'll get to the enhance towards the end of the month.
You've been listening to Digital Transformation Architect. If today's discussion helped you see your challenges more clearly, the next step is to apply architecture, not just technology. For deeper conversations with leaders and practitioners shaping real change, listen to Embracing Digital Transformation or check out our website at embracingdigital.org. Until next time, Architect the future with intent.